Hello, right now I'm going to be doing a review on the Nikon D60. Here's the D60 right here. It's pretty small. And you see here, it's not very long. It's fairly wide, but not as wide as like the D90 and stuff like that, because it didn't have a little LCD right here showing your information and stuff like that. It's just all the information showed on the display right here. This camera takes SD. See right here. I just have a 2 gig in it right now. I have a 4 gig SDHC 200 megabit per second memory card, another 2 gig, and then that 2 gig, and those are just, I think, 60 times the speed. But that's their writing speed. I'm not sure what the memory buffer is on it, but it's probably pretty slow compared to the 200 megabit per second, 200 times SD card. It's a SanDisk Extreme 3, I believe. Yeah, that's what it's called. So right here is your shutter. There's an on-off switch. Your aperture, and then when you hold this down and you go left to right to control your aperture. And also, if you don't hold that button down and you just scroll this button right here, that controls your shutter speed. So going down like this decreases the shutter speed, going up like this increases the shutter speed. And this is 2.5-inch LCD monitor with your multi-direction pad right here and the OK button. Here's a review button, the menu button, information button, and info button. Actually no, this is, what's this button? This, I believe that's just for zooming into things, and also it has some functions when you're in the menus and stuff like that. And here's a delete button. And to delete an image, you press this down once and it will say delete or cancel, and it's on delete, and you just scroll over and hit cancel. But when it's on delete, just hit this button again and it will delete the image. So I just keep hitting it twice to delete all the images I want. There's a mode dial right here. This is manual. See it? The first, okay, there's this little area that's highlighted, and those are like your programmable keys. Or they're not programmable. You can change settings, and all these ones are right here. So the first one's manual, which is full manual. You can change everything, every setting, every autofocusing, metering mode, stuff like that. Your aperture priority, shutter priority, or the shutter speed, you can just change that, and program auto. So it's kind of like this one, the auto, like you'd see on most point and shoot cameras, but this one's program auto. So there's some things you can change, like you have the ability to pop the flash down if it pops up, stuff like that. The next one is no flash, so it will compensate your shutter speed and your ISO to compensate for not having a flash. Here's portrait, a landscape. That's children. This one it shows a little runner on it. It's for like fast shutter speeds. It will use a fast shutter speed when possible. So I use that for sports, but I never use these modes. I'm always use manual because it's just easier for me. The next one's macro, but you pretty much have to have a macro lens. The 18 to 55, the kit lens, isn't really a macro lens. I believe it has an f-stop of 3.5, so I mean it's not even close to really being a macro lens. And then the last one is night portrait. Right here is the active D-lighting switch, and I don't know if you can see that, but right there's a green switch or a green little dot on the top, and there's a green dot right there. And if you hold both those down at the same time, you can reset all the cameras. Like if you're on manual mode and you've changed a bunch of things, but you forgot what you've changed, you can just hold on those two buttons, and then it will go back to all the original settings that you'd first opened up when you're in manual. And you can just change them back again. Oh, and right here is your pop-up built-in flash. This isn't for turning on your like the Speedlight flashes. That's just for popping up the internal flash. So you go like this, and then it's not working. In all these other modes right here, you can't pop up the flash because it's automatic. Like see, if I try to hit it, it will say lens not attached, which the lens is not attached, but that shouldn't be the reason why. I don't think you have control of popping up the flash in those modes. Here, okay, let me show you. There's a flash. It extends way higher than the Sony I had, but it still doesn't cover most lens caps or lens hoods. You have to take off the lens hood and use a flash in. Right here is the AF illuminator, so when you're autofocusing at night or in really low light conditions, that will go on, and that has a distance of 9 feet. But when that goes on, it makes it easier for the autofocus to happen, because if you don't have that little, or if you don't have this, because this is always on, you can't change that or turn it off. It's just something that when you're using the internal flash, it just kind of helps out with it. But if that function was not there, it'd be pretty hard to focus at night. You'd probably have to kick it into manual. And when you do manual, you have to change it on the lens, unless you don't have an autofocus lens and you change it in the camera. Right here is, and if you don't have an autofocus lens, it already is manual. And so right now this lens is in manual because this lens doesn't really focus that good when you're extended all the way out to 55mm. It doesn't like to focus on people's faces, and I've tried changing the metering mode, and I did change the metering, actually the autofocus mode, I think that's what it's called, to just a single point, not the dynamic area, which dynamic area is for like multiple subjects. So say you're taking a picture of like 8 people, you'd use a dynamic area so it would focus on each one of their faces or bodies or whatever you wanted it to focus on. I believe the Nikon or the D60 has a 6-point focusing area. I'm really not sure. Oh, and this lens has the VR, which is, what does that stand for? Oh yeah, vibration reduction. Usually it just pretty much stands for like image stabilization, like you'd see on most cameras, point and shoot cameras at least. And turning off, like, I believe the vibration reduction on this lens only works for up and down motion, not side to side. I believe for side to side motion like this, like if your camera's just completely shaking, you need the VR reduction with the normal and active modes, like the 70 to 200 f2.8 has. That's a pretty cool lens. Then here's the 18 to 55mm lens. This is the kit lens that comes with it. It's a VR vibration reduction also. This one I have it in manual or autofocus right now. It has a f3.5 to f5.6 actually. Comes with a weird white lens cap. Doesn't even screw on, you just kind of pop it off. I don't really like that because it doesn't really stay on that well. Unlike this one, where you have to turn right to take it off. Like you would take it off the actual body itself. Right here it comes with a lens hood. The lens hood model is HB37. It's a pretty cool lens hood. It helps a lot from unwanted sun rays or UV rays or whatever you're using it for, dust, and it also protects the camera a lot because I've almost hit my camera on the side of walls or side of, you know, a tree or something like that when you're using it outdoors, and it saved my lens a bunch of times. And I would rather replace that lens hood than replacing a $250 lens. So back onto the body, right here is a AF, or no, well, it catches infrared signals. So like say you're using a little remote shutter for it, and the only remote shutter you can use is an infrared one. You have to point the camera in front of that or to the side. I think it might read from the side also, but that's how it picks up the speed, and you have to, or picks up the actual remote itself to do the shutter or to trigger the shutter. And then at the bottom here is the battery compartment. And this battery just slides out. There's kind of right here like a little lock so it doesn't actually just fall out. You just kind of slide it out. So this is part 1. Bye.